Hello and welcome to Masters of Change. There are changes in our lives that we often wonder, can we really change the course of how things work out for us? Sometimes we say it could have been better if this would have turned out like this. But sometimes we also feel helpless at the way things turned out to be. Sometimes we feel that this is something that I had no control over. Things changed. Sometimes for better or for worse. We often wonder. There are people who have consciously worked on mastering the art of change. They have also accepted change as a reality. They are not uncomfortable with changes around them. It is interesting to listen to their stories, how they have mastered it. It is the purpose of this episode to bring such stories to light so that it can help us grow better. Today, we have Sister Maureen with us, joining us from Australia. Let us listen to her stories of change. Maureen, welcome to the show.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you for the invitation.
For our friends who are watching you, they would like to know a little bit about you, who you are, where were you born, what kind of family were you growing up in, and what did you do later on in your life?
Yeah, I was born in Sydney, in Australia. And my parents were Catholic, and so I was in a Catholic primary school. But for me, I didn't get the answers. So from such a young age, I had big questions. And from the age of 11, I declared myself an atheist. And I told my parents, I'm not going to Catholic high school. If you send me there, I won't listen, I won't talk. I'm not going. So you can see a little bit of my character. But so I went to a state school, and it was really when I studied Indonesian language that I found what I was looking for, because they teach you about the religions of that country, and I learned about the philosophy of karma. And I realized that was the thing I was looking for. I wanted to understand suffering and how to end suffering, very much like the Buddha. And so both in Buddhism and in Hinduism, which we learnt about, I really took on this aspect of karma.
As children, there comes a point when people are growing up, coming of age happens, and people start questioning everything around them. Why is it like this? Why is the world like this? Why are people behaving in a way that they are? For an 11-year-old to come to that conclusion, saying that, okay, now I'm an atheist, itself is a big realization at that point. How were your parents like? Did they encourage you to have these independent thoughts? Or did they say that, no, this is something that you should believe in?
I think there's one thing that I most appreciate about the attitude in Australia, at least at that time. I guess it's the same. But there's an expression, whatever makes you happy, love. And that has been an amazing way to be brought up, because there's no pushing you in any particular direction. Of course, the nuns and priests came to our home and they tried their best, but my mother is a little bit on my side, I guess. She didn't like some things, so yeah, I kind of got through that one.
Young adults, especially after the adolescence, when people find it's the time for us to choose a career or an education. That is something that I would like to do. And many people often say, choose what you like. As you would say, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
But it is often difficult to find out what really makes us happy, especially at a young age. How did that go about to continuing an education, picking up what you wanted to study and what you wanted to make a career in?
Actually, my keen interest was to travel to Indonesia to learn more about the philosophy of karma. I wasn't even so aware of the big picture because in Australia at that time, they had a white Australia policy. So we had no exposure to other beliefs really. So that was my first exposure. And I thought, I just want to find out more about this. And so I wanted to become a teacher, but I didn't want to be kind of trapped in, because after your studies you have to commit for a few years as a way of kind of paying back. So I just worked in the government. So I chose not to go to university because I didn't want to be trapped. I wanted to travel as soon as possible.
Many youngsters do that even now. Many people would often take a gap year before they go on to higher studies or do something. They just want to go out and explore and see things. Did that also happen to you? You went out, did you seek out something, or did you really want to figure out what is happening in the world outside? And since you said that you were an atheist at the age of 11, and how you wanted to discover different schools of thought?
Yeah, actually, I met my husband when I was just 19, and he was going to be a Buddhist monk. And I was very influenced by his way of thinking. He said, you should think about marrying me because I don't plan to have children. I don't like this world. I don't want to bring anyone into this world. And I thought, oh, he's quite negative. I think he'll change. But I changed, actually. And I said, well, let's go to India. You become a monk, I'll become a nun. And so we set off for India.
And that is where many people would not believe this is how it is going to come to, because as much as it is unbelievable really to have that kind of understanding at an age of 19, and somebody saying it and you picking that up, saying that, yeah, this is something that we can do.
Yeah. So we actually came to India. We first traveled overland. We went to Europe and then came back overland through the Middle East. So we traveled to 50 countries, I think. And, we came into India. And interestingly, because Tom, my husband, had never been to India, but interesting, he's Chinese Malaysian. So when we crossed the border by foot, we walked across the Wagga border, I think it was. And when we walked across the border, he said, oh, it's so good to be home. So that we both looked at each other like, what do you mean? But it felt right. So it's interesting to be moved by what is happening inside, not the logic so much. And so we went to Bodh Gaya, Dharamsala, we were studying. But we'd already taken up the practice of Buddhism. We were vegetarian, and we didn't find any monasteries that were vegetarian. So, we couldn't really stick around because it wasn't even easy to get it in the vicinity. So we then went back to Australia and we looked at Buddhism in Australia, which there's a lot more vegetarian, vegan options, at that time vegetarian options. So, yeah.
And how do you describe this journey about traveling and seeing the world, but at the same time going on a spiritual quest? Because for many people, they were either looking for God. Some people were not looking for God, but they were looking for something greater, something deeper. Some people have looked for truth, or some people have looked for a sense of justice. So different people have searched for different things, and that has led on to a search for something else, something which is not visible.
Actually, I think Tom was a bit similar to me. We were only really interested in how to end suffering and not interested in God at all. I thought God's for weak people. It's just a crutch. I don't need God. And I think he thought something similar.
Yeah. Coming to the Brahma Kumaris, everybody feels that when you are on a search, the universe also brings you to things that you are looking for, trying to connect dots. How did that happen? Where did you come to the Brahma Kumaris? What was it like, the first experience of coming in contact to them?
So actually we returned to Australia from India, and we were practicing, some Buddhist practices on a regular basis. And somebody came into my office and gave my friend a brochure from the Brahma Kumaris. Interestingly, he thought I looked too body conscious, even though I was a practicing Buddhist. So, but the brochure said God, and it said free. And I thought, they're just going to push God down our throat. So two wonderful words, really.
Yeah.
But for us, it was a bit like that. And we were planning to go to a Buddhist ashram or monastery in Queensland, which is 1,000 kilometres north. And so, after, all that we'd been searching for in India and on our travels, we kind of made 3 options, very funny options. One was that we would go and check out this monastery. So Tom left his job, I kept mine, and I thought, well, something to come back to. And so that would be our first attempt. And if that doesn't work, then he could go to India and find a guru, and I'll keep working and supporting him. And if he doesn't find anyone, then the third option is we'll just buy some land and have a goat farm and sell goat's milk, because we had no interest in the world.
Yeah.
We didn't even know what to do in the world. It's like, what do you do when you're not interested in material things? And you're not interested to have a family and settle down. It's like, what do you do in this world? So then we had the plan to go to that Buddhist ashram or monastery. But the day after we made that plan, we came across the BKs again. And we thought, well, we've tried everything else. Why don't we at least just go and check it out? And it was a week before we were leaving for that monastery. So we went to the centre and we fitted in the 7-day course in 7 days. And really that was where it all started to happen. The first lesson was just wonderful, finding out about the soul. I just thought, why don't they teach you this in school? This is just so basic to understand. I was a bit surprised that it's not kind of known or explored mainstream. But then the second lesson, they mentioned God, and it was like, oh, here it goes, and looking for the door, But when both of us, when we sat for the meditation experience, I would say, well, let me speak for myself. I experienced everything that was said in the guided meditation, and I experienced bliss and love, and I thought, where's this coming from? It's not coming from me. So it made me really curious as to what this is.
Wonderful. And what year was that?
1977.
And I believe that was also a time when the services of the Brahma Kumaris had
yeah,
it had
76.
Just few years.
It just started in 76. So, yeah.
Meditation in the West, people have studied different schools of meditation, different kinds of meditation. The Buddhist meditation that you were also doing, you already had an experience of meditation. But coming to Raja Yoga, learning Raja Yoga meditation, the Brahma Kumaris, what really made sense to you? I mean, yes, of course, the understanding of the soul and stuff, but what is it that really felt that this is it, this is something that resonates with me, and this is something that I would continue doing?
Yeah, I mean, it was the experience in that meditation, but as a Buddhist, I didn't get, honestly, any experience in meditation because, we just tried different methods that we were taught, like looking at an image of the Buddha or watching the breath or using a mantra. I didn't get any experience, and I wasn't that interested because I was young. I didn't know what peacelessness was or trouble was, so it was like, what would you meditate for? you know.
Yeah.
But it was really that experience that makes you feel, well, I want more of this and more and more.
Did you at one point of time feel that there are aspects of the teachings of the Brahma Kumaris that did not kind of fit in for you, where you had to make an extra effort to learn or to understand things? Because many people often say that the spiritual journey that people embark upon, one encounters many challenges as well, because it is not very easy. As much as the experiences are nice, it makes you a better person. Many people say that they have found great benefits in doing meditation. But for many people, it is also difficult, and some people find certain aspects of it challenging.
Yeah, I think from the beginning, whenever I had a question and I thought about it, I didn't even need to ask people. I would be able to work it out with the basic knowledge that had been given. So it just seemed to fit. Like Tom and I left for that monastery. We left for the monastery after doing the 7 lessons. But all the way we were talking about all this knowledge and thinking, yeah, this is why this is like this. And it was just fitting together like a jigsaw puzzle. And so I could always find answers. And I think up until now, I think I can find the answers, mostly. You know, like at one point I had a real challenge. I felt pushed out in a particular situation. And, you know, that's a very painful feeling, or I feel pushed out. But then I just thought, no, there's a way to look at this that can be different. And just by thinking of different angles, I thought, no, I'm not being pushed out, I'm being pushed up. And I was so excited to see what was going to come next. So my whole feeling changed, and an opportunity came, like almost immediately, that was just amazing. In fact, I got involved in this Future of Power program that was going on in India and lived here for 4 years. So, you know, I just find that, you know, I love that we learn how to think. I think that's one of the big attractions, learning how to think so you can use your mind and your intellect and find your way through. So even, you know, with a big organization, of course there's things that come up, but I always find there's a way through.
Before we go more on the aspects of change and how your spiritual journey has been, coming to the Brahma Kumaris, many people often relate their experiences of meeting accomplished yogis, people who had practiced this meditation for many, many years. And many people who have visited Mount Abu at the headquarters of the Brahma Kumaris have had amazing experiences. What was your experience like? When did you first come to Mount Abu? What kind of people did you see and meet?
Well, first of all, I met Dadi Prakash Mani. She was the first great yogi I met. And that was only about 6 months after doing the course. She visited Australia. And I remember going to the airport, and we were so few at that time, hardly 12 BKs in Australia. And we went to the airport, and, you know, we were just a few to meet her, and I only saw light. I didn't see a body. And I embraced her, and, you know, and just the way she treated us, you know, like an equal, a friend, so down to earth and fun. It was just wonderful. So then when I came to Mount Abu, of course, it was mainly Dadi Prakash Mani again. And I remember going for a walk with her after lunch, and she came up to me from behind, and she said, she came up to me and said, how do you think we should increase service in Australia? And I thought, how can she be asking me? I'm 21 years old. I've been with the BKs less than a year. I was so moved by her humility and always was. Yeah.
Do you see a significant change from where you began and where you are today? Of course, definitely there are changes. But did these changes happen naturally? Did you have to work on them? How has that journey been?
I've always been working on something or another. And I think the most important thing for everyone is self-respect. And if I look back, any challenges I've had, it's because of some lack of self-respect. So that's probably the biggest one. But also emotional independence. And I used to be quite an attached person as a kind of a sanskar. And I think that emotional independence has really been so wonderful to achieve. I wouldn't say 100% I've achieved it, but I've come a long way.
Many people say that they have changed from what they were. Some people would say they were before they began meditation, they were either a little restless. They've turned out to be more peaceful now. Some people would say they were having issues with anger or a different negative trait that they have overcome. Did any of those changes happened around you? Did people notice changes in you?
I think it's been more gradual. People do keep saying that I've changed, but it's more incremental. It was mostly that being, I think, internal. I could see the changes more than externally because fortunately I had a very easy upbringing and very beautiful parents. So I thank them for the way I've turned out, I think. So, I don't think it's been so external.
Now you are someone who also helps people start the spiritual journeys, embark upon the benefits of Raj Yoga meditation that you have reaped, and it is something that they could also take benefits out of it. And you're helping and supporting people, and you teach Raj Yoga meditation yourself. So what kind of experience has that been of bringing people to this understanding of helping them meditate?
Yeah, I think this is something that probably we all enjoy a lot. And mostly I teach what I've learned. And so that's really exciting because then you feel that whatever you've been through, the ups and downs and everything else, you can really see a benefit for other people in what the journey you've traveled has been. And so, that's an amazing opportunity to be able to share and make the most of life's experiences. And so what I'm working on at the moment personally is just feeling I belong to one, and that's really enough. And I'm getting very good experiences and insights and feelings about it. And so that's what I base my sharing on, what I realize and discover. So most of what I share is my own journey. Of course, it's always full of wisdom from all the great teachers that have gone before us, but yes.
Your role as a meditation teacher has taken you to different places across the planet. You've met people from different geographies, different cultural understandings, and yet you've also had the opportunity to see a group of people who come from diverse and multicultural, multiracial backgrounds coming together on one platform, having one understanding that makes them one family. What was that feeling like? How did you see visiting different Brahma Kumaris centers across different places and yet seeing the same thing being taught, people doing the same kind of stuff and having the same kind of love and respect for each other?
Yeah, it's really amazing. And it's part of that whole vision. I mean, my biggest thing was removing suffering, but of course the other side is that vision of harmony. And so I see it in a practical way. And I lived in Asia for 32 years. So I was in all the different countries in Asia. And whether it's Japanese, Korean, whichever country it is, we can all connect at the soul level. And I think it's not just about the BKs being united, but I find that when there's this foundation of soul consciousness, we can connect with people of any religion. I've been in Pakistan, I've been in China, I've been, lived in communist countries. I've been in so many different places, and in fact, in one, interfaith conference, they were calling me Buddha's daughter because it was all Buddhists, and I just felt so good that they could feel I was one of them. So I think it's such a great thing to unite the whole world, and we don't all have to be BKs to unite.
It's such a beautiful understanding that we are here not to really wanting to say that you should listen to us and you should become one of us, or you should become a BK, or nothing. There are no expectations, but a wholehearted feeling of offering and giving something to people as gifts. They can choose whichever things that they would like from, and they can take things for themselves, and if that works for them, and as good as it can get for them as well.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's why I enjoy the BKs, because it is broad-minded and people can feel like they're one of us, even if they don't believe the same things.
I'm pretty sure we would have more things to share if we continue this conversation, but I'm afraid the clock only permits this amount of time. But I'm pretty sure the next time, whenever time and opportunity permits us, we will listen to more stories from you. Then thank you so much for coming and sharing those stories and the journey of your spiritual growth with us. That will certainly be of help to many people.
Thank you, Shri. It's been wonderful to be with you here.
Thank you. Friends, that was this episode of Masters of Change. When we listen to a story of change, how a person has worked on oneself, it really inspires us. It also reminds us that we are also same, we are also equal. And Maureen's story tells us the same thing, that if we look at each other with equal vision, seeing that each of us is equally divine, and as souls, if we look beyond what we are wearing, the costume of this physical body and the roles and the other things that we have acquired today, our real identities is what would connect us all. And that understanding could make the entire world a better place to live. That is all on this episode of Masters of Change. In the next episode, I'll see you again. Until then, take care.